by the way. They got like some limited
Halo
edition new
malam semua guys,
jackets that I
kita
heard
balik
about.
lagi
Not sure if
restream
we'll be able to get to
game
see
of
those in
the
person,
future
but
guys ya.
you know, the point
Ini
with the
babak
whole
perempat
Layla
final
pick,
ini guys. Ini yang
that's what I
lolos nih
love, and I
masuk
was telling
ke
this to G
semifinal.
yesterday in the discussion. Like some
Nah
of
nanti di
these,
semifinal itu
you
baru
could say
di semifinal
non-meta
baru
picks,
ada
like these
upper sama
niche
lower.
picks or whatever you want to
Kalau
call
RRQ
it. Like
menang
I
nih
feel like we're in
udah
a current
jamin lah.
meta state where it's like
Semifinal
you
ada
can do
nyawa
some of
tambahan.
this. Like you can experiment, you can pull something off, and really all it comes down to is if you're confident enough to pull off that strategy.
Ini
And
lower
something as
atau
simple as like, oh yeah,
langsung cari
Layla
3-4.
might be really a simple hero in comparison to some of the other goal laners that we're used to seeing, but
si dolar guys, main si dolar.
So also we're gonna be taking a look here. Burmese Ghouls making their way to the stage once again here after this great video put together. And Kim, I gotta say, you know, personality-wise, matchup style-wise,
Kita
for
cek
both
suara
these
dulu,
teams,
aman tidak?
do you think the Burmese Ghouls kind of have to like tame that aggression
Okay,
a little
aman.
bit here in this matchup against RRQ?
Yeah, I think Burmese Ghouls did a pretty good job actually back in the group stages where they were also pretty aggressive from the early game. So I think it boils down to the draft too. Like if you're gonna give like Saksa here or Irad those types of heroes, like I think, you know, if you want to be aggressive from the start, like Glass Cannon heroes like, you know, Joy, Nolan, these are the things that you have to consider. Even the Martis too, that is super good in the early game. And Burmese Ghouls had that type of composition actually in the group stage. So hopefully let's see if they can balance it out with RRQ.
Ini udah lama jadi atau baru dibikin
that
guys?
kind of aggression
Kok
that
baru
they want to show out.
perempat
So
final
far, like, I
ditayangkan?
think Burmese Ghouls did a very
Padahal
good job of
dari
holding out
fase grup itu
up
bagus.
until the stage, right? Like we're down
Penontonnya bisa banyak.
to 8 teams. It's not an easy feat to actually reach this point of the tournament.
Yeah, again, based off what we saw yesterday, taking us back to yesterday, since we know that RRQ Hoshi's been waiting, right, because of the way that they place in their groups, but specifically for Burmese Ghouls, like I said, their performance against Twisted Minds was very impressive. Like they came out very strong and came out swinging impressively. It's just they had some, I would say, like minor mistakes on some things, especially when it came to setting up with what they drafted. And I feel like that's going to have to be in check here, you know, for this game against RQ if they really want to move forward, right? Because we do know that
Bentar guys ya.
there's not that many days left in single elimination.
Right.
And there's only so much you can do in a best of 3. And, you know, I'll ask you this, Kim, because I liked to ask G's idea about this, like in the best of 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So is this like the time that, do you think game 1 really is the time to just throw out like this experiment, or do you go back and stay with your fundamentals or your basics here? Because these are two teams that really, there's a lot of variability that can pop up even in game 1.
Yeah, I think at this point, right, everybody pretty much has an idea of what everybody's comfortable with in the current meta. We've seen the stats already so far, and it seems like it is centered around these chain CC type of compositions. You see like a Ruby, Minotaur, or sometimes even Ruby, Tigreal combination. So I think it's all about like all-out brawl sometimes I would see like in all of the games. And I mean, clashes after clashes, and it's all because of these CC type of heroes. So I think for Burmese Ghouls, right, if they want to keep up, maybe possibly like get a really good
lagi guys, komentatornya di rumah lagi loh.
We started to see the shift also. Instead of like putting your resources to take down the gold lane, like I see a lot of these teams kind of shifted to the XP lane, which kind of like carries the momentum of the game, right? Like I've seen Delar do that. He was so good in like disrupting the jungle or the farming of the enemy, which kind of made it so hard for them to take in major objectives, which is turtles and the Lord. So I think that's something that has to be looked upon here for both sides.
I think with building off of that, you know, when you're talking about the objectives, you know, for the most part, I still feel like these teams specifically, and Burmese Ghouls as an organization, like there was a time when they were very action-based and they wanted to just clash it out and things like that. But of course, like with time, a lot of these teams have developed that sense of, all right, these objectives, we really have to master the dance. Because I think for a lot of people watching, like especially if, let's say, they're just kind of casually watching,
nanti Skylar nggak bisa menang loh kalau di ban Lela.
Compared to the diehards out there, they know that there's a certain like choreography to a lot of these like turtle takes and these lore dances. That's why
ngapain ban Lela sama Skylar?
That's the terminology, because
ban anu aja,
and
ban
Brusco. With the additions here to Burmese Ghouls, they have done a really good job at kind of developing
anu nanti nih Scalar bukan pakai Layla lagi guys, dia pakai Mia.
You say the same thing about
Dia mau meta baru.
here. They're a team when sometimes when you think they're like down.
Itu kemarin RRQ bisa menang itu karena bisa bertahan sampai late. Kalau nggak late itu kalah juga. Dipaksa aja. Si Banabot aja mainnya langsung main mid, dia main cover Layla mulu, sudah nggak fokus XP. Si Irat yang dimainin untuk jaga lane.
When games do, like when we're
Irat kan
talking
kemarin
about
dia main 2
10,000 gold deficit for any of these teams out
Oh,
there,
yeah,
there's
that's
some of those
huge.
playmakers that can pull a miracle out, right? It doesn't always happen, but it's definitely a possibility here. And once again, while we wait for a draft for game number one, that's where we're going to see
Jangan lupa
things
ya
kind of
top
fall
up
into
diamond di
place, right? Because we already saw,
AEStore29.com.
again, these top picks,
Kalian
these top
daftar aja
bands
jadi
that have been
member
coming up.
biar nggak
We
kena
see
biaya
a lot
admin.
when it comes to Rome, we see a lot of that set potential. That's the reason why Ruby is, I think she's the top right now. I think she's
Number one.
actually most
Yeah.
picked. Yeah, I think she is the most picked
so far.
hero.
Kalau saya
But
sekarang lagi nggak fokus
even with
apa-apa.
that being the case, like we saw yesterday,
Sekarang saya
and
malas
being
main
picked
gold.
up first, it doesn't guarantee you a
Lebih senang
easy
main mid
sailing
lagi
of the
sekarang.
game. Like we saw even Maro yesterday struggle with the Ruby in the first game that they had because he got shut down really early on.
Oh iya guys, mungkin
Yeah,
gimana
looking
ya?
at the
Kayaknya
Ruby
saya
here,
bulan
the
depan terakhir
statistics
jadi
is actually
streamer nih.
pretty good. Like it's picked up
Berhenti live YouTube dulu,
most
kayaknya
of the
bakal
times
TikTok
28
aja
in
sih.
total, but it doesn't really have a very good win rate. Let's say like 40%. So yeah, I mean it is a priority, but it
Bayar
doesn't
mahal.
guarantee you like an overall
Kena admin
win.
bang,
Yeah, but apart from
adminnya
that, I want to talk a little bit about
500.000 ya.
the other picks too that haven't like surfaced, like Joy, Matilda. Actually, Joy was let out once, like for the RRQ debut game. It was actually given to Irad.
Ayolah, mulai lah. Kenapa sih komentatornya di rumah mulu? Nggak pernah di state, padahal tadi udah di state loh saya lihat komen RRQ.
Will these teams like go for super aggressive picks? Like there are times that I will also see like Fanny bans, like respecting Irad there, Lancelot bans coming through. So I'm not so sure if
kamu lulus SMP tuh udah kesana sudah bisa tuh. Lulus SMP kan kamu umur berapa? 14 sampai 15. Di Singapura lumayan kok, ada banyak orang Melayu di situ.
At least for me,
Tapi belajar bahasa Inggris aja.
about this over in our region, of course. Like I loved for the longest time, ever since I was a part of the broadcast team, RSG, and so I was a big Demon Kite fan coming up, and then Irad came in, and he had his whole thing that he was saying between him and even Carl Teasy in one of the
Umur
seasons.
31 boleh.
Man,
Selama skillmu masih jago mah, kamu ikut trail biar umur 31 itu masih boleh. Di Indonesia tuh, kenapa umur 23, 25 itu sudah bilang tua untuk player Mobile Legend? Karena hadiah turnamennya tuh nggak sebesar game-game lain yang sudah internasional gitu kayak Dota, PB.
Irad and players like this will be like, you know what? I'll take the Lancelot, I'll take the Joy, I'll take the Nolan, I'll take some of these
apa game yang satu tuh yang dimainkan Faker kok aku lupa ya, yang kemarin tim T1 juara tuh. Mereka kan tuh hadiahnya gede, jadi kayak orang yang udah umur 28 sampai 30 itu masih mau kompe karena masih bisa dijadikan jaminan gitu. Kalau Mobile Legend kan aduh. Rek itu seumuran saya. Rek itu kelahiran 97. Sama kayak Tony Setiawan tuh. Itu Setiawan Tony tuh dia kelahiran 83 dia.
He likes to opt for those utility type heroes more, at least for the whole team composition. So that's what I'm really wondering, and that's where my eyes will actually be when we get to that draft is what do these teams want to get?
Kira udah mulai tadi tuh.
And it's one thing that's apparent here, Kim, is how much flexibility can happen.
Homeboys saya tergantung sih. Homeboys itu bisa menang kalau dia disiplin, serius. Early Homeboys itu kuat. Dia nggak disiplin lawan AP Brand. AP Brand itu disiplin banget soalnya. Kamu sedikit blunder biar lagi menang jauh di comeback juga. Mau selisih 15k pun di comeback sama dia.
come up here because you need you need that confidence to be able to make that play. I mean, come on, I'm not that confident.
Pokoknya syarat
I can't do
untuk
assassin.
Homeboys menang tuh
It's kind of like that. It kind of translates to your personality.
Dia harus
too.
disiplin.
Sox is more of that kind of guy
Akhirnya
who kind
main.
of more of like
BO3,
follows
BO3.
like what
Final
the
yang
entire
baru
team
BO5.
wants. Kind of like a team player, right? But I'm not saying Iran is not. I'm saying it's more of like
semifinal mungkin BO5 juga deh. Ini kan baru perempat final nih. Yang lolos di sini masuk semifinal.
Kind of like that kind of thing going on.
Yeah. And I get what you mean too, and I like the fact too that you kind of bring that perspective because I know you've
tapi
done a lot of that.
Hype-nya di Rusia nggak terlalu. Tadi state-nya masih banyak yang kosong tuh kursinya.
So you get to kind of spend a little more of that time picking the brains of some of the players here, of course, in the Philippines. Now, as we're getting through this first phase of the draft, you can already see the bans coming out, the Barretts. The Nathan is taken out. I was wondering if this would be also banned out.
Bisa aja
constantly banned, so that's taken out. But the
itu aja, syaratnya dia harus disiplin. Saya nonton siaran ulangnya tuh, Homeboys early-nya kuat banget tau. Mereka tuh menang-menang terus.
So what are we feeling though will be possibly priority here as we get through these last couple bans in the first phase, Kim?
Wow, the Novaria here. I think this is also like one of the most picked so far, like overall in the entire games of the future.
Barat, Nathan,
the vision
Martis.
it gives, the pokes, even the wave
Nathan
there is so good. So I think for Burmese Ghouls, Nico is that type of mid laner. Like there was a time he went 2 games straight with a Paquito in the mid.
Joy, Irat di banet ya.
Kemarin Joy-nya Burmese Ghouls is kind of trying to go for that kind of composition once again. Like talking about RRQ being aggressive, Burmese Ghouls has that composition that can be aggressive and at the same time like it can be like a split push type of composition. We've seen that Paquito in the mid lane. I think it's also a flex pick that comes out from Burmese Ghouls. I'm not so sure if RRQ she will respond immediately by taking it, but there's a lot to take in here for the first phase. I was thinking about the Ruby, which seems to be a standard first choice, but Guinevere here for the side of RRQ Hoshi, which I think is a very safe pick. It's a flex pick. Like you can go with it in the jungle, you can go with it in the XP lane, and sometimes even the roam. So super flexible. We're talking about the flexibility. I like that coming out from RRQ, but Burmese Schools can either answer it out with a Ruby and a Claude picked up, one of the most picked heroes as well so far in the tournament, and has a very good win rate, by the way.
Yeah, not to mention, Stitch had some MVP performances on this as well, and they're going to work around that. Not to mention, picking up Ruby, like you said, it's top pick right now, but we'll have to see again if they're actually able to utilize it the way they need to, because so far we don't 100% know where the Guinevere is going. We can assume that maybe it goes in the jungle, maybe it doesn't. Even yesterday alone, we saw it even in the roam. So with that, again,
Ruby,
where do they go from here?
Nana, Joy.
They take up the CC,
Nana,
they take up Nana. So this is a lot of damage already in these first 3 picks.
Jangan-jangan ini sudah selesai draft pick, masih gangguan ini tampilannya. Pak produser nih, aduh panitia.
I mean, when you look at her photo, it doesn't look like it, right?
Kenapa kosong-kosong gini nih, nggak jelas nih.
You know?
Yeah.
Ruby di pick terus loh.
It is. I mean, we've talked about this with Private.
Ruby
I think the
kayaknya
only
lagi
time
hero
we've
mahal.
seen this was like well, it has appeared in multiple games, but I think I love this coming out from RRQ Hoshi, showing us that the Nana is not only a beast in ranked games. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. It appeared several times. Not to mention, I like the adjustments that were made to it recently. Like the Molina can actually not stun one person, right? You can stun like 3 people. So like for RRQ so far, it has that great burst combination. Burmese Schools immediately answers it out by picking up the Akai here to kind of shake things up. But at the same time, I'm not so sure if this is a good pick up against like the Nana. Like Nana's Molina kind of counters out the Akai, right? Like when you pop the heavy spin. So I'm not so sure. But for Sox, alright, he's kind of taking away or kind of picking up this Akai already, since there were 2 bans centered towards him in the first phase. The Barretts and the Martis were already out. Some of his most picked heroes so far in the tournament.
Yeah, and it's funny with that because Akai popped up
midnya bisa ambil Aurora sih Burmese Ghoul.
And even if you're playing into a Nana, I feel like it can still work. It can still work okay, because really when it comes to the positioning, getting the lockdown with the heavy spin, the way that works, and sometimes it's not even about getting the lockdown. It's actually the way that you can utilize it. And we've seen this happen before with Saxa, is just hey, push
dari
them away
bulan
from the
10
objective.
kali.
Again, you know, we
10,
talk a lot about
11, 12,
the
udah 5
dances, the
bulan
objective
guys.
dances, and then one
Subscriber
great
masih
tool or
110 aja.
utility, I guess, that Akai
Makanya
brings is
pengen pindah
sometimes
di
you're just
TikTok aja
pushing
sih.
the other jungler away so
Kayaknya
that
di
you
TikTok
can get the
gampang kena
retribution
banned
off
kita.
and work off of that. So
Orang gampang
again,
banget
a lot of
report-report
CC
nggak jelas
available to
gitu.
them. Claude scales up. We know that he can be a menace later on himself, pushing those side lanes, putting pressure there if it's not controlled. But right now, as we get through this second phase here, Kim, a couple more bans to go before we see how this unfolds. And we already see some focus here on the XP lane as well.
Yeah, Dilar, I was actually going to talk a little bit about that because looking at
nggak
RRQ
tahu
Hoshi,
sih.
they
Siapa
kind of want to
main
focus on like
lamanya
team
Burmese
fights,
Ghoul.
right? You got the Guinevere here to set up the plays, even the
Sering
CC here.
kalau namanya
kinda
tau aja
sets
sih
up the
Niko
plays,
gitu,
but
Lina.
For RRQ, they're kind of, you know, respecting the fact
Tapi
that
kalau
Dilar,
si
this
ini,
is not a Ruby,
Carbon,
Dilar's
Shadow
Ruby.
nggak
So
tahu
he
sih.
might actually
Goal.
go for, you know, something
Oh,
else. We've
namanya
seen it
Burmese
on a
Ghoul.
Lapu-Lapu several times. Benedetta as
Saya
well.
cuma pernah
That
dengar
can be the
nama
split
si
pushes
Niko
here for
sama
Burmese
Lina.
Ghouls. I talked a little bit about that earlier, that Dilar can also go for those kind of mobile
Dilar.
heroes that can disrupt the
Indah.
jungle. So for
Ini di
RRQ Hoshi, the
Burmese
last
Ghoul.
ban, I feel like they should
Paymentnya
center
Dilar
it
bagus loh.
around Dilar. Just the same thing as
Cadangannya
Burmese
juga nggak
Ghouls
ada.
is centering around the jungle here
Gak
for the
apa-apa
last
sih,
two
nggak ada
bans. They take
cadangan,
away
nggak ada
the
cadangan.
Lancelot and the Nolan that I
Pro
mentioned.
player
That is
Mobile
really
Legend
good
juga
when you kind
cadangan
of want to go
mah
for that great early game, which kind of
ya
leaves
anggaplah cuma nama doang, nggak
leaves
bakal main
Iraq
juga.
here with either going for another utility because they already have the burst damage here, or they want to add up to more damage by picking up like a, you know, something crazy like a Fanny here. I mean, they already have Skylar here to pick up that either a carry here to shred up
Paramis,
the
yeah.
tanky heroes, or maybe go for something like something that can go head to head with a
Duh,
Claude.
ini hero-nya kenapa sih gini munculnya aneh-aneh cuy, nggak
They
jelas.
could do that. They could,
Depan,
again,
belakang, kiri, kanan
I
begitu.
think they could even possibly just go a safe route. They already have so much damage available to them in the early game. If they really want to go in with scale, and
Mungkin
work
ini
around
Paramis
this,
mid
they
sih.
might even opt. What if they go for, of course, like it's not banned out. The carry's available. Bruno's still there. Those are some picks that they could pick up and go with. Fairness being picked up on the other side, again, is something that you have to be conscious of, right? I was even thinking of possibly an Aurora popping up because we've seen that come through quite a bit. There's the Bruno. So Bruno is going to be locked in. That's the choice here
Bruno
for
susah nggak
Skylar, which
sih?
is great because
Lawan
Bruno's
Akai
a great
gini,
turret destroyer, right? Let him
Akai,
go ahead
Ruby,
and farm up, do what he needs to do, and then the damage has to be
Mino.
respected later on. The Minotaur,
Terus
last
Mino.
pick here for
Ih,
RRQ
berarti
Hoshi.
jungler
So
gue
now
ini.
we know exactly where things are falling into place, right? Of course, this provides them a lot of that sustainability
Jungler
still,
Akai,
based off the heroes that
Ruby,
they
Roamer
have,
sih menurutku
and
nih.
a lot of CC. So
XP-nya
it's a good thing that Burmese Ghouls has that fairness, right? Because they're going to want to use
atau Roamer
that,
atau Ruby
that
XP.
cult altar to really help them survive a lot of this.
Yeah, they're already anticipating that this is going to be an all-out brawl between them and
Jadi Roamernya
RRQ.
ambil apa nih?
I mean, looking at the lineup here of RRQ, you got the Minotaur, the Guinevere. This is what's really good about the Guinevere too. I think this might actually be the Irad's hero, right? So as long as the Guinevere has someone to front for you, you can just keep on setting up and not worry about getting taken down.
Apa
But
tadi, guys?
for the side of
Apa tadi?
schools, they also
Dia
lock
ambil Roamer atau mid?
something really interesting themselves. And
ambil
I
Roamer
think
atau XP?
overall, like you can expect to see like a lot of clashes here from the start and even up until mid game.
Apa sih? Nggak jelas banget sih.
Again, we'll see as both these lineups are locked in and ready. I feel like it's been a while too since we've seen you know, with Faramis, I'm so used to seeing the Valentina across from him, but I like the fact that, again, I'm a huge fan of these picks popping up that are, I guess Nana's kind of meta now, but you know, for the longest time, she wasn't meta. So I like that she still fits into this this whole play style for a lot of these teams. So talking about magic damage, talking about sustainability, they have all that here for RRQ. Burmese Ghouls, on the other hand, like I said, they're gonna have to play around the utility that they bring to the table with these picks, right? The Ruby, the Akai, and everything else. So again, let's see how it all unfolds. We saw both the lineups here. I'm gonna go ahead and lean towards this lineup from RRQ Hoshi. I think they should be able to pull it off, but we're gonna be jumping here into the land of Dawn here. Game number 1. Down to the last 8 teams. We're kicking off here. RRQ Hoshi, Burmese Ghouls
udah main.
in this best of 3. One of these teams will be sent out of the tournament here.
Ambil
after
XP
the
berarti
series.
Ruby Roamer.
So we all start here once again. Taking a look at the early rotations, emblems, nothing quite, you know, out of the ordinary here. Banana though. opting for a lot of that sustainability again with this CC. We'll see how this all works out. Burmese Ghouls, they gotta play around the fact that they have. Oh, hold on, already in the mid lane though. Jump in, come through. Nico's gonna be just fine. Gives them a thumbs up as well. So for now, back and forth. We're gonna wait for that that first big objective. Of course, the turtle. I'm not sure if either of these teams have what they need to get an early first blood before the objective. I think it's better they play it safe again when we're talking about exactly what is at stake here, right? So for now, let's see once again how it goes. Banana and
ya akhirnya ada kemarin kosong banget soalnya sudah di state kan kemarin itu fase grup itu belum di state.
There you are, Kim. So yeah, nothing. You didn't miss
ini di semifinal baru muncul di stage-nya nih.
Ya, perempat final. A minute in, no first blood. Kind of expected to see this from, of course, RRQ and Burmese.
Kayaknya mereka nggak ada sponsor sih. Soalnya kemarin meskipun nggak ada camp playernya, nggak di sponsor juga.
Like this XP lane choice from RRQ, they decided to go with this. Especially since this can kind of like put Dilara back. Like we've seen this in some games of the Burmese Ghouls that you know, Dilar had a very early wave clear, so he was able to reach level 4 much faster than the opponent, which kind of really enables Burmese Ghouls to kind of take in these early turtles. But so far, it's RRQ. Irad actually started at 140 HP already for the turtle.
Monitor kepake di sini, kalau 2 monitor bisa sih sama ada speaker 1. Tapi PC ku nggak ada speaker. Aku pakai mic doang sama headset. Ya kalau nonton sendiri memang gitu. Aku aja kadang kalau nge-stream sendiri nggak ada yang komen atau apa. Kadang ya bosan juga. Makanya kadang itu saya mainnya game-game yang senang saya mainkan gitu. Jadi meskipun nggak ada yang nonton bisa senang sendiri kan main game.
But overall for RRQ, right? Like so far their lanes are pretty much contained. Like you see how Dilar was super aggressive too when it came to like the turtle take. He went in and tried to go in for that level 4 so he can pop in that black dragon and be able to kind of, you know, kind of mess up RRQ's turtle take there. But so far RRQ has been successful. No first blood yet. 3 minutes in already in the game.
Hasclo udah jadi Hasclo-nya.
Which is interesting, right? Because we're talking about the aggression from both of these teams, but that's not going to find the connection they're looking for. But hold on, still.
Oh, itu tarik flicker, di ulti lagi, mati Ratu. Di ulti Akai. Nice sekali tadi tuh blink tuh. Sama Sasa kombonya masuk.
The flicker combination with the I'm offended. Still going to be up here on the top side, but they should be
golnya langsung imbang.
What a play.
Yeah, just when we were talking about no first blood, kind of called it there. Nice tuck in there.
Wah, Banana mati nih.
For Blink and he was able to do that, and now Banana in trouble.
Oke, satu sama. Tapi Banana rugi dia nggak dapat ketapul itu. Satu.
And you see kind of like the aggression of Dilar, right? Going right into the turret to make sure that he gets the pick off, but again, kind of nullified since it was like
si Dilar menang bayuan lawan Banabot.
Burmese Ghouls. Brusco setting things
Brusco
up,
sudah ulti.
but not be able to get anything. Burmese Ghouls so far, they got that nice first blood. They got it
Plotnya
into
sweet
pickoffs,
loh.
but it's still RRQ Hoshi leading, all because of the turtle takes that they've been taking, and not to mention, look at
Burmese
Skyward
sudah
over on the
ready
top side,
turtle
actually forcing Stitch to actually go to the
dia udah ambil
XP
posisi.
lane instead.
Ruby sama
It's a good choice. I mean, a lot of these rotations happening here are very smart on both sides, you know, for the most part. An early game, not anything too crazy happening. You see Blink, if he continues to do that every time the flicker's available to him, it's really going to pay off, right, for Burmese Ghouls. That's kind of what they have to do. But Brusco, even on the other side, well-timed Annoying Fury is going to help them out. And not only that, but they have the extra
Yuzong ada naga tuh.
CC available to them.
Petrinya 5 detik lagi. Ya, nggak dapat. Kirat. Nice try. Kejepit lagi. Mati situ. Udah kelok Akai gitu, ada Ruby lagi. Plus ada Yuzong yang zoning, nggak bisa maju. Kirat nggak di sini main. Kayak waktu lawan apa tuh Little Gun di press habis-habisan langsung awal-awal.
Trying to take down this turtle to the point that the RRQ was just like trying to find the proper setup there. We kind of see the attempts there from Irad trying to go in for the Violet Requiem and the spatial migration, but you know, it kind of backfired here onto RRQ, and now so far Burmese Ghouls, they've done a good job of equalizing things out. Brusco though
goes in, yeah, jumps in, but look at that again. The sustainability is kind of the way, of course, Netherrealm works. It buys you a little more time, and they're going to be just fine.
I'm worried about for the side of BURMESE Ghouls, though. They have to check Skylar as of the moment. He's gotten all the gold plating over on the top side. Not to mention that he's been pushing the lanes pretty fast. He did mention that this Bruno is a turret shredder, and so far he's been taking this turret now almost to 1/4 HP. They should be able to take this. Great map control here for RRQ. Great space that they've made, especially since they still need to take in the last turtle and possibly the next Lord coming into this game. But so far, gold lead, you don't see anyone leading as of the moment because everybody is so...
Biasa sampai berdarah
it's kind of a little bit careful when it comes to all these engages, right? Like once you engage, you don't have that right follow-up, it might actually just be a double-edged sword.
Ini balik kendari udah jarang sih.
Yeah, I think that's again, you have to respect the fact that even with everything happening now, the past couple of minutes, it's pretty much even economy-wise, right, for the most part. And Skylar not going down, able to kind of just farm up here is great for RRQ. But even on the flip side, BURMESE GHOUL is exactly Stitch, having an early kill, able to work on his own here, will pay off later on, of course, as you scale up on this Claude pick.
Ini gambar turtle-nya nggak ada, cuy. Kita nggak bisa lihat yang menang turtle udah berapa kali. Cuma lore aja sama tower dengan goal yang muncul.
So both teams
kita udah sama sih turtle-nya.
The difference maker could be that gold
lane having that available buat Guardian Helmet
whittling down slowly, but Stitch gonna go down bottom. Team's gonna be fighting it out 4-on-4 here for this third turtle.
Nice,
Taking a slow turret goes down to the bottom side. As both
mendominasi sih.
Turtle's gonna reset once again.
Menang sih dia bawah tuh.
Still looking for an angle here. Brusco
tuh, Cloud-nya kalau nggak mundur bisa mati dia tuh.
No one committing just yet. They're trying to feel
this
out.
Kalau dia paksa tahan tower.
There's some pressure
lagi pula masih kelihatan dengan 4 orang di turtle, jadi Scalar berani maju.
Right now, BURMESE GHOUL just kind of letting them
take
control of this space.
Yusong berubah, naga, kena 3, Brusco, gak ada follow apa, Yusong dapat Scalar lagi. Oke, Scalar aman sih, gak ketarik Ruby tadi, nice. Mati kah Sasa? Sasa udah retreat sih. Wah Irat, ngapain maju lagi? Wah Irat mati guys. Dua tukar dua. Tapi dapat turtle, dapat mid.
They find wins on both sides here, but RRQ pulling out just a little bit ahead.
Mati tuh, nice. Combo banana sama Okta. Maksa turtle, red sih udah sekarat banana mati. Ih, gak kena. Gak kena tuh dia.
Wow, so much back and forth here, Kim.
Wih, langsung lord tuh berapa detik sisa hidup? Wih, bisa ini.
There was a trade from RRQ Hoshi on the middle lane, so that's also pretty big for them to give that map control towards their side. Right now, that is big because RRQ Hoshi just finally got this first
mahal sekali sih tadi tuh si Banabot sama Okta dapat junglernya, dapat Sasa di red. Wih, kamu jangan hina-hina Nanang ya. Nanti dia nggak mau berteman sama kamu lagi tuh. Apakah kau ingin berteman dengan Nanang?
Than what Stitch has, but so far, you know, we can't count out Stitch just yet. This is a Claude that you're talking about. He just picked up the Demon Hunter sword too, so that's going to be big for the side of BURMESE GHOULs when it comes to these clashes.
Okay, Scalar udah ada Purif lagi, Petripa Yusong ada, Ulti Ruby Akai ada, tapi sudah Purif.
If BURMESE GHOULs decides to go in for the full engage.
Okay, and with that,
cuma CC-nya banyak kali sih ini si Burmese. Purifnya Scalar banyak yang bisa trigger.
We'll be taking the resources as well on top of it. So BURMESE GHOULs once again finding themselves in a troubling position. This round could slip out of their hands very quickly, depending on how they deal with this push. It's going to come down once again if Blink can find a setup that he's going to be looking for on this Ruby pick once again. He's kind of the big answer for him. Dolar also now at this point with Dragon Form has to be really careful on his positioning. Turret now in the mid lane, tier 2 gonna fall on the
Warka di lo.
Tier 3.
Warka?
And you can already see Skylar very confidently just kind of poking down what he can. Shield's already taken care of as well in the mid lane. But right now, BURMESE GHOUL is holding it together on the defense.
Kalau Scalar dulu tuh dia tuh pemain farming udah kaya tapi mainnya tetap safe gitu. Mau ngasih damage ragu-ragu. Sekarang dia berani nyicil-nyicil terus loh, meskipun dia nggak unggul jauh-jauh banget gitu kan. Belum yang mendominasi banget. Wah, bisa mati. Boom. Oke, kena sempet angkat sekali. Towernya hancur. Mati kah satu? Mati kah Akai? Wah, Akai nggak mati. Wah, sekarat semua, Cuk. Gak ada yang mati. Tapi boleh lah, floor pertama dapat tower mid itu worth it, guys. Bawah bisa jadi dapat juga nih bawah. Bawah dapat, kena 3 tuh, kena 3. Oh, mati 2. Tapi kalau Paramis mah cepat. Oke, mati 3. NK. Oh, N guys. NK. Scalar WON. Oke, Ruby mati. Mati si Paramis itu sama Nana. Nice N. 11 menit aja guys, game cepat loh. Kira tadi si Scalar nih bakal kena makan mulu, cu. Soalnya CC-nya banyak gue liat kan, ternyata dia bisa nggak mati loh. 0 death sampai late game.
All of them actually used up all of their ultimates, but none of them were taken down. What RRQ actually did really well in that final clash was just to have that selective targeting on those heroes, right? Like Brusco was down, yeah, the main one taking up all of the damage, but that actually enabled Skylar and even Octa there with the Nana to be able to get the prime position and kind of burst everyone down while everybody was
1-0 saja, bos.
trying to take Brusco down.
2-0 aja nggak sih? Biar nggak lama-lama. Wih, Onyx main terakhir terus, cu. Lihat jadwalnya, Onyx main terakhir lagi loh. Sian banget loh, Onyx itu dimainin terakhir mulu.
As much as it was a stalemate from the early portion of the game and it was relatively even economy-wise, it's like a switch just flipped for RRQ at some point, right? And they were able to really kind of make these decisive maneuvers around some of these skirmishes and these team fights that gave them the upper hand. And that could just be the experience, the patience that they have, but it definitely just kind of shown here how strong they can be in some of these team fights and the way they approach them, because very quickly it just went in their favor here, especially after fights like this.
Ini bisa peluang Indo Filipin guys. Finalnya bisa peluang.
For Stitch, he was able to kind of have that killing spree, right? Even in these
ada kodok Nana, jadi nggak ada yang berani maju. Jadi Ruby sama Akenya nggak terlalu maju ke awar kan. Takut dijadiin kodok dia. Takut diubah jadi Nanang. Sini loh, Brusco-nya bisa selamat loh. Lihat TB Tower di tarik Ruby tadi masih selamat loh. Pasifnya sih dia manfaatkan tadi tuh. Makin kena damage banyak kalau dia lagi rage, skill 2-nya berapa persen yang heal dan terima balik itu. Intinya lebih banyak lah dari damage-nya. Pas ya. Dan user tank soalnya.
The rest of RRQ Hoshi to actually make the plays. As long as Skylar is safe here, as long as he's protected here for RRQ Hoshi, they could have locked in the tower.
Tadi untung ada minion bawah juga kan. Jadi bisa kain. Baru Nikonya baru hidup mati lagi. Jadi stacknya udah habis. Simpan abot MVP. Cici cuy MVP.
The side of Burmese Ghouls here several times,
not only dari
but even in the major objectives, which kind of is, I would say that CD is that kind of hero that is not really that, for me it's not really that OP, but it really is super annoying to be in lane with. You've seen even in the early phase of the game where, you know, Dilar really had a hard time to clear out the lane, like Banana had much better wave clear, and at the same time it was really annoying when it comes to these clashes that, you know, he was just zoning the backlines, and it was hard for, you know, either Nico or even Stitch here to get the prime position in the class.
Yeah, it was great. Again, you know, Banana didn't even have, you know, he didn't have to have that many items to do what he wanted to do.
You don't know how
beautiful you are. And he was able to play around the vengeance as well. And he was just really good at kind of playing that front line when Brusco wasn't available, or maybe Brusco had already done the Minoan Fury combination, and there was a couple times where it looked like he was going to go down, but Banana was, you know, there then to deal with, and he's just kind of a nuisance for a Burmese Ghoul lineup to deal with. And even though, once again, when we were talking about it in the draft here, they had a lot of utility available to them for Burmese Ghouls. They had a lot of just options that they could have used, and we saw glimpses of that, you know, like that's what we saw from Blink early on, and it just, unfortunately, it did not result in what they wanted to. It's like at some point they were keeping up with RRQ, and then things just kind of, you know, fell apart from there, and then you just don't have enough time, I feel like, for the Claude to build up. I mean, this was a rather quick game. And most people will know that when Claude is locked in, like that's the thing you need. You need time, man. You need time to build up, to get the 3-4 items that you need, and then to be really that pressure, whether that's in the team fights or you're just pushing a side lane. But, and that's one of the great things why that matchup happens so often, where a Claude is locked in and then you see a Bruno across from you, because honestly, Bruno just needs like 2 items and he's kind of already doing the damage, like he already kind of hurts. So, and this is something that was unfolding here, not to mention the reason why, Kim, we see so much Nana right now, because sometimes all you have to do is drop the blitz. That's it. Drop the blitz in the straight line. You've
drop
got
the
it paired
Molina,
up
it's
with,
fine.
Yeah, you've got the Minotaur as well. So it lines everything up really perfectly. And I feel like, again, Burmese Ghoul's lineup, they kind of needed a little more time here. And RRQ knew the assignment. They're just like, yeah, we're not going to give you guys the time that you need to scale up against what we have. And that was the case of game number 1. It was a well-played execution, because anytime you really see these games end at this, this time frame, a lot of the times that first Lord push too, after their first Lord, and there's not even a need for the second one, it's just a finesse by the team. It's just a good execution of whatever they drafted and the way that they played around their timers and the rotations. And I feel like that's what we saw from RRQ from game 1. So, now we have to kind of consider the fact, while we wait for game 2 draft here, Kim, like what does Burmese Ghouls do here? Like, did you agree with the draft and the game plan it seemed like they had? And should they change that up for game 2 to get to game 3? Because again, it's match point now for RRQ Hoshi.
Yeah.
Satunya nice, satunya burger.
BO3s, like
Nice
yeah,
burger.
matches like these are BO3. There's just only so much you can do, right? Like the adjustments that you have to make, knowing that, I mean, even the pressure, thinking about that the next match is going to be a match point for you, and if you don't win it, or if you don't take it to game number 3, it's over for your team, right? Definitely a lot of pressure from Burmese Ghouls. What I noticed from their draft is they're kind of reacting to what RRQ actually put out, right? Like they had burst, they answered it out with the fair miss, but
hero yang kuinginkan.
they pretty much didn't think about like the overall picture of like how that will all pull in together, right? Like they had for what RRQ did is they worked in on those turrets, they gave so much space also for their team in that early game. So for the side of Burmese, I think they kind of have to play it out, of course, real safe here in the second game, and at the same time maybe try to go for what they did in the group stage, like picking something different in the mid lane, or maybe perhaps like going for a little bit more of like comfort picks rather than reacting to the draft here of RRQ.
Yeah, I feel like if I had to pick
start
something
up
apart, like I understand the Fairness kit and how it can provide some of that utility, of course, with the Nether Realm and everything else, but it just didn't feel like it could have been, like there probably was a better option for me personally that you could have put in the mid lane there in a matchup against the Nana. And I did mention, again, we have seen so much Aurora pop up. Of course, I believe the Vexana was, I think it was banned out, but that has also popped up. Yeah, that has popped up a lot. Of course, Novaria, but that was banned out. So it's like, again, you kind of have to decide what is our game plan. It just felt like that lineup, that composition that they had was like, all right, utility. That's what we're going to go with, and we're going to hope that, again, we are buying enough time for our Claude to form up, and it just didn't get to that point. So you were talking about what they could do here. I personally think that what I'd love to see Burmese is do kind of what they did yesterday, They were a little more aggressive in their picking and their play style. And if that also means, hey, maybe this means put Dalar, put a Paquito in Dalar's hands so he can be a little more proactive and a little bit more like of a threat, I guess, in this and deal with it, because I don't know. Yuzhong right now for me is just not cutting it. I don't know the 100% statistic on the win rate for Yuzhong. I don't think it's that good though, because so far from what I've seen, I know he's only been picked a couple of times. Maybe he's even just
6 times to be exact.
Okay, he's been picked 6 times. Like, it seems like a struggle for the Yuzhongs to really work right now, especially when they're dealing with how much impact right now CC has. Like, CC is also just one of those heroes that's popping up often, and it's tough to deal with. So I personally think that Burmese Ghouls, they opt for a little bit going back to that foundation of let's be aggressive, let's make these plays, and not play
Yo,
to the
Gini
pacing set
kalau
by
game 1
RRQ
cepet
Hoshi.
kali juga ya, bosan juga guys.
Yeah, speaking of the pacing too, like Burmese schools, the they drafted even in the group stage was really aggressive, like picking up a Harriet
Aku
very
nih
early
sambil main
on,
game
even picking up like direct counters to
Mythic
Ruby,
Samkok
like
namanya
Barretts and
nama game
Paquito,
guys.
even being so bold to putting the
Ayo
Paquito in the mid
Mythic
lane. So I
Samkok
think
sponsor
they should kind
saya.
of go back
Saya
to the
mainkan
basics
game
here
ini yang
for their
meskipun
side.
mungkin
That was
pemainnya nggak ada.
their kind of identity. I think even for the draft of
Biar
Burmese
saya
schools,
tetap
I
bisa
would
jadi
have gone with
YouTuber.
somebody who can split push, right? Like that's what RRQ was doing. They were pressuring the lane. So if Dilar was on something like a Benedetta or a Paquito, these can go for split pushes. But being in the Yuzong earlier, it kind of forced him to be like, okay, I have to be in the team fights. I need to have that Black Dragon form up to zone everyone away. So I think for Burmese schools, just go back to what they know, go back to what they're comfortable with, and go back to their identity, which is being aggressive, and also at the same time having these uncontemporary picks in the mid and even in the XP lane sometimes here for Dilar.
I think step one for them, now that they're going to be on this side, getting that first pick, if it doesn't get banned out, I think they should take Guinevere, because that was in the recipe for them yesterday, right? They had Guinevere in both games that they won.
Kita start up
They
lagi,
can go ahead
mana
and start there and then build around that. But both games as
sekarang
well,
kamu
like I said, Dilar
start
had
up-nya
a
2
little bit of
bintang,
a
jadi
more
agak
kind of
kuat kamu sekarang.
action-packed hero where he could make
Terus
these
aja nanti kamu
plays or these setups,
gendong-gendong.
and if that happens, then great. Bans though, so far, the Navari and the CC
Oke,
being
kita bisa
taken out
gacha
by
dunia
Burmese
satu
schools is
kali.
a great step also in the right direction, dealing with that. And for RRQ Hoshi,
Ayo
they're
dapat
going to be
kota
like,
baru. Ya,
we're going to
dapat
focus on this
guys.
utility jungle. We don't want to deal with that right now.
Kecil
And
kali
we'll see if they actually go
kalau tak dapat
still that
kota.
way with these last bans in this first phase. What are we thinking here, Kim?
Ini gimana nih?
Yeah, BG here is you can kind of see the
Kok dia
impact
nggak
of this
mulai
DC,
merampok
right? I mean,
loh.
I'm not so sure if
Yeah.
Dilar is
Perang
very
kerajaan
comfortable
lain.
with this hero. But looking
Aku
at
udah
this hero
ready
pool
padahal
is more of
guys.
those heroes that can be a bit more mobile, can take care of itself. I mean, he's the general after all, so he can has to be the one to like lead the charge in the XP lane. And for Burmese schools,
Dachau,
I think for
kayaknya
RRQ
aku
Hoshi,
bakal
they have a
upgrade
good idea
Dachau
of
sih
like
nextnya.
banning away these utility type of heroes that Saxa has been so good at picking up. Last ban is going to be Matilda here that still I think it should be permanently on the ban list with
Harinya aku belum selesai.
how shields it can give and at the same time how much
Aduh,
mobility it
Oh
can
iya,
give to
aku
the
belum main
entire
ini
team. And Burmese schools, like what you mentioned,
kita,
nice.
kita tes
It
hero
is
power
going
baru.
to be your first pick here for the side of Burmese
97
schools. Again, I cannot
versus-
confirm if this is going to be in the
Wah,
jungle.
ini
A
harus
good
menang sih,
flex
kalau
pick
nggak
here
menang
from
terlalu
Burmese
nih.
schools, but for RRQ Hoshi, they can kind of shake
Wih,
things up
kenapa
here,
nih
kind of
komentatornya
answer
yang
out to the
satu?
Guinevere.
Oke
maybe
guys,
pick up,
akhirnya kita
the
masuk
Ruby,
di
and
fase
at the
drafik
same
ya
time
guys
pick up
ya.
the Claw that Burmese
Langsung
schools actually
saja di
prioritize
sana
in the
dari
early
RR
first game.
Burmese Ghoul sudah
There it is,
mengamankan
right?
Gwini,
I mean,
lagi-lagi Joy dari Irat
I know
di
I
Bennett.
disappeared for a second. I heard everything you said there though, Kim, but the Guinevere popping up, I think that's a great choice. You kind of play around that now, and like I said, you said this too,
Novaria
go
masih
back
menjadi
to some of
band
that
utama
foundation
dari
that
tim
you
Burmese
have,
Ghoul.
and the recipe for success is, even
Sekarang
yesterday,
aku
but
lawan yang hero
I feel
powernya
like still you
91
gotta be able to
juta kalau
answer.
kalah nih.
There it is, the
Tapi
Nana,
dia
the Nana was open, so it's
kantongnya
probably most
lengkap
likely
sih,
going to be
kantong
taken once
bantuannya.
again for RRQ as they do that. And this
Aduh,
time too,
tank
they
di
go
depan
with
lagi
the
tebal
club
kali tuh kan.
themselves.
Aku bilang kalah
So
gua
this
pasti.
could be something where it's like,
tebak.
all right, Burmese Ghouls, do they actually want to go with that similar matchup?
Hero
do they
startupnya
want to
gue
lock in the
dua hero
Bruno,
startupnya full bintang 6
and
kalah gue.
deal with
Kalah.
it's a flip side type thing, and they could build around that. I think this is still though. So
Uy,
far, let's see what these next two picks are gonna
akhirnya
do for Burmese
Skylar
Ghouls, but I
dikasih
just like the
Cloud.
fact that they at least
Cloud
went with the
Nana nih,
Guinevere,
bos.
because although we did see it twice even yesterday, giving them
Harus
the
menang
success,
nih.
they could still flex it.
2
Like,
game
there's
saja,
still
jangan
room for
lama-lama.
that. Paquito
there
comes
you
up
go.
too.
Biar
Man,
Onyx
it's
itu
just
nggak
like a
begadang
That's what I
mulu
was
tiap
waiting
hari.
for.
Go to what worked for them yesterday, and
Oh ya guys,
try that here.
link
There's
donate
the
sama
Bruno.
link
So, this is looking very
Diamond
similar
Store ku guys sudah
to
bisa
if you
langsung
guys
diklik
caught
ya.
game 2
Kemarin udah aku
yesterday
perbarui
against
lagi di
Twisted Minds.
pihak
I think it was
YouTube-nya.
a very quick game. It
Butuh
was like
verifikasi
12
video
minutes,
lagi.
and they had the Guinevere
Soalnya belum
Bruno,
peri-peri.
Paquito,
Cuk,
I think
belum
they had
monetis
a
YouTubeku,
Glock
belum
as
selesai.
well,
500 subscriber sama 4000 jam tayang tuh.
I think they had Valentina, if I remember right. So the Glock
Jadi
was
harus
there.
diperbarui terus untuk
We'll
bisa
see if that
live-nya.
happens, but they're going back to that foundation we were talking about here.
Yang mau donate bisa langsung scan barcode
The Paquito
ataupun
here
klik
and
link
the
di bawah.
Guinevere, I just want to say
Donate-nya lewat
that
Sosiabas guys.
this is really
Di
confusing
Sosiabas
right
itu
now,
bisa
especially
pakai
for,
Dana,
let's say,
bisa
some of the
pakai
people
rekening,
who's
semua
come in,
bisa
they're pretty new
banking.
to the meta. Nico has actually flexed this Paquito in the group stage twice back-to-back games in the mid lane. I mean, not only can Delar do that split push, Nico can also do the exact same thing. He was a menace to the team that they were going up against.
Kali ini Ruby
I think that was Lil Gun that
Wih,
they
Pakuito.
got up against in the
Ini
group stage.
Pakuitonya
And
Delar,
Nico's
guys.
was,
Kemarin
really,
Pakuito
really
Delar
deadly,
tuh
like
serem
hiding the
abis.
bush, getting in those
Ngeri.
single target
Dia
cooldown
bantai-bantai gitu.
with his
Bantai-bantai sendiri tuh kemarin si Delar.
Like pretty much like the
Si
Nana,
Dolar.
can beat you out on the map. So I still can't tell like if this lineup of Burmese schools is like is it a Paquito Delar or
And
is it
when
a
your
Nico Paquito?
insecurities
Things
are
like that. But for RRQ
making you
Hoshi right
cry,
now,
I'll be your
they have
eyes.
this lineup that's packed with like burst. So they need someone to frontline. They pick up the Ruby here again. I still don't know if this is gonna be a Brusco hero or a Nana hero.
Dia main Paku mid kan?
Depending on what Burmese schools will.
Kemarin Delar loh yang make itu. Ngeri. Oh, Nico juga sering pakai tuh. Jadi mid. Baru tahu aku. Nggak sia-sia kamu nonton semua turnamen, Satria. Kamu tahu semua tuh.
For Burmese Ghouls, you actually can take the Ruby ultimate that I'm offended and use it. We've seen that happen before, but obviously too, just having the Nana
si Nice dengan burger di sini
is also quite devastating when you have a Guinevere there. And like you mentioned already, Paquito, one of the great things about it is you put the pressure of getting that passive from Nana down really quickly.
Karena tadi dia pakai Cloud, dia di press pakai Bruno, sekarang dia balikin. Kita lihat kalau dia tadi yang masih Blink ya, Marksman di Burmese. Blink kan? Kalau dia kalah juga pakai Bruno lawan Cloud, berarti dia memang yang nggak tahu main, guys. Kalah berarti.
We'll see how that falls into place, but you know, I'm sitting here thinking for RRQ Hoshi, based on the fact that they just have this Ruby, how do they want to build up the XP lane, you know, specifically because if it is a Paquito across from them, Arlot's going to be taken out. I was going to say Arlot, or even maybe they go with a Lapu Lapu if they want to have some more setup potential and pair up with the Ruby here. But now that the second phase of the bans are done, we'll see where this kind of falls into place here for RRQ.
I'm looking at the draft here of both sides so far. They've already taken away all of the options here. Even got all sides covered by taking out the Grok, like just kind of anticipating that might be another thing that.
Memang tuh, meskipun kita jarang pakai hero, tapi kalau sering nonton tuh nambah skill juga tau.
I like how they have the burst here for RRQ Hoshi. Burmese schools has that in the form of the Guinevere here. I'm still thinking, what else do we have here? Sometimes these drafts can get pretty confusing because you still don't know who's gonna go where. But now RRQ Hoshi, they lock in this Fredrin here, which is actually a very good front line for these burst standard stealers. I think this might be I'm thinking like this might be a Brusco hero. Like this would be so good up against like Burmese schools.
Ini
lineup, like having
Ruby nggak tahu nih Ruby XP apa Ruby Roamer.
Map can be really hard for heroes like the Guinevere and the Paquito here. Still not confirmed where it's going to be going. I like the Valentina choice here. Could be a great pickup, but and again there's so many good ultimates here from the side of RRQ.
Bennett kali mungkin ini Ruby Roamer kan. Kayaknya bisa jadi pick Bennett nih RRQ.
Is it the Iron Offended or is even the Blazing Wet here of the Claude? I think the Valentina would still be good here.
How do you feel about Aurora? Is this a place
kind of hard though to go up against the Fredrin though. I think I prefer the Valentina. Okay. I prefer the Valentina. I mean the Aurora is great though, but it can't burst down the
sama
Baxia of RRQ. So I like this
junglernya Baxia. Berarti main Guini Roamer.
And here it is. So is this a... Oh, okay. So it is gonna be... it's gonna be a Roam Guinevere here, and then that's gonna be a Baksha in the jungle.
Yep. And that's what I'm saying. Like, when that was locked in the first time, like, there was the flex available, right? And they kind of left that open because the Grok was taken out, so they kind of adjust from there.
Nyala abangku.
You know, just assuming, you know, we might as well fight utility for utility in the jungle and kind of try to win some of those objective fights, those dances. The Minotaur is going to be locked in once again. This is very
menyala abangku.
Right?
Seterang apa tuh?
They could find themselves in a position that Burmese Ghouls was in the previous game, right? Where again, you're really waiting for this Claude to scale up, get the items that he needs, But that's where I feel like Nana shines, right? I mean, that's why she's picked up so much, because the early damage potential
Ayo
is
dapat
very
ekstrim dong.
frightening.
Nice, akhirnya kita dapat ekstrim di
So the
Vermilion,
fact that
guys.
you have a Valentina now is
Langsung
actually going to
kita
put you up to
pasang
par with that. Not
aja.
to mention just having
Kamu
Terrify and her kid as
diganti.
well,
Tidak.
kind of helping around the kind of these skirmishes that will happen here,
Target
and you have to respect her
armor,
damage as well.
skill
So
point Ragi.
this is a lot better. Like, I like the Valentina a lot better than the Faramis. I know Faramis, you know, some people be like, well, you can build them in a certain way, pick up a certain emblem, and you can have great damage on a
Tapi
Faramis. Yeah,
yang
you
ini
could, but
merpati
you know,
putih.
this I like
Saya
this
sudah dapat
better
burung
because
Vermilion, jadi kamu
it
nggak
also
dipakai.
goes
Sorry
back to
ye.
what they did yesterday in
Sorry
one of
ye.
their quickest games, 12 minutes. And just like we saw in the
Jangan
previous game, it was a
kue.
very quick game from RRQ Hoshi. So I feel like the pieces here to this puzzle for the Burmese Ghouls is exactly
Ada
what they
turnamen
need. So,
Pemda Mobile Legend. Ada juga
jumping
sih
into the
turnamen
game
tadi
at Land of
Mobile
Dawn.
Legend, guys,
Game
di
number 2 here.
tempatku.
We're still on your
15
screens.
juta kayaknya
There
mau.
Yep,
it is.
I was gonna say
Wih,
we are gonna be
sorry,
jumping
sorry.
in too.
So, game 2.
Oke, awal-awal
Early action
early.
as well. But yeah, anything standing out of the ordinary here for you, Kim?
Seimbang,
Look at the
unggul,
emblems, nothing too
unggul
out of
Burmese
the
dikit.
ordinary here, I would say. The spells though, you got the Purify from the Brutal.
15 juta,
Again,
cuy.
that's gonna be crucial too, especially since
Total
RRQ has
hadiahnya
all of these
ini
setups,
bukan
right? You
turnamen
got the
warkop. Kalau turnamen warkop tuh
Minoan's
total
Raid
hadiah
from,
biasanya
Minoan's
3
Fury
juta.
rather from Brusco. You also
Ini
got
berarti
Banana
juara
Scion
1 bisa
Offended,
jadi 5
not to
juta
mention
nih.
the Blazing Duet too
Kalau
from the
enggak
Blood.
7
It's
juta.
not gonna be easy for Stitch though, but I think if they go the route here of being aggressive
Tes-tes
early
ah,
on, which
ikut
is
nanti.
kind of what they're doing right now here up against RRQ Hoshi.
Oh, yeah.
Kemarin
already.
aku yang ikut
Saksa gonna
turnamen
take some
di
damage,
kampung
but
tuh, guys.
again,
Waktu sempat nggak live 2
these
minggu
are,
tuh.
you know, very
Mundurkan
tanky
diri
heroes that don't
tuh
have a ton of
timku.
damage right now, so
Kita
no
masuk
one can go
semifinal
down.
padahal dua-duanya
Still a
timku.
lot of CC potential though. Brusco should be fine as well. And one thing that's great about the
Soalnya
Mentor, especially
aturannya
later
kan
on when he
pemain
kind of
luar cuma
rushes
boleh
that flask in the
2 tuh,
Oasis, it is
sementara
tough
yang
to deal with, but
mereka
to hold
ambil tuh
on,
pemain
Brusco
luarnya
could be
3,
the one in
4,
trouble as
hampir
he's gonna
satu
go
tim.
down a first blood now.
Baru panitianya
in
nggak mau,
trouble as well.
mana yang nggak mau
2 kills now for
diskualifikasi.
Burmese Ghouls.
Wih, lagi-lagi
Exactly what
RRQ
they
early-nya
need here
kan.
in game 2, Kim.
Yeah, level 4-2 gonna be attained here by the Valentina in just a bit. I like how they picked this up too compared to the Aurora that you kind of mentioned, which is also still good. But the Valentina can scale up really well, care of her passive, right? Like she can scale up to level 4 right before a major objective like the Turtle, which is really good, right? You need all of these great ultimates to pick up. Right now, it's all up to Nico whether you want to pick up that Minotaur's ultimate or whether even if you want to go for Octa's ultimate here would be great. Burmese School started out real strong. Now they're looking to take in this first Turtle game, and so far RRQ after that those first 2 pickoffs actually,
Aduh,
they're
kena
kind
angkat lagi
of
mainnya.
hard time here.
Dimakanin sini.
They knew he was there. Brusco once again going to be the focus. They
Buang
forget
flicker,
the turtle for
Brusco.
now. They want to get the kills.
Oke, Nana
here. The
backup,
pull
nice,
comes through.
bagus sekali.
Iraq could be in trouble, but look
Mati,
at the response.
blink.
Now
Nice,
Blink has to get out
junglernya
of there.
mati,
He's the one to
Fredrin
fall
juga
from
mati.
Octa. Now still going to be fighting it out for
Fredrin
more. Irad the one to fall still.
sudah mati.
bloodied
Brusco
here.
selamat kah?
1
Banana
HP. Banana
mati
trying to get
juga.
away, but it's
Banana
Nico that falls. It's a double
kan
for
gelar kan
Saksa.
yang pakai
But
paku tadi
RRQ
gua bilang.
gets on the board. But now they still might try to stop Burmese
Atas
Ghouls from
gimana
getting
nih?
this turtle if they
Bisa lihat
can.
golnya kah?
Brusco not having that level 4 just yet. Take a look at the replay. They might be able to just get that turtle. Keep an eye on that. It looks like they do. But this was a great play here from both teams. I mean, a lot of response
Si
back and
Banana udah
forth.
buang flicker tadi
Yeah, the
buat
turtle
bunuh
is taken
siapa?
here by Burmese
Blink.
Ghouls.
Blink lagi.
Yeah, I like the clapback
Si
there of
Saksa.
RRQ. They kind of like, okay, you know what? Burmese Schools is going full aggressive. They actually went in for the full aggression too. Brusco actually flickered out there.
Oh.
What's really hard here too for the side of Burmese Schools is like the tanky front line. Like we're starting to see the damage coming out from the Nana, which we'll see even more later on. Like 2 kills already for Octa here, which is kind of something that Burmese Schools have to watch out for, especially in these clashes. Even here on the top side, we have to check the laning phase here of Stitch and Skylar, and so far Skylar has been doing well up against this Bruno, as compared to
Mati kah,
earlier,
Skylar?
like a lot of poke here coming out
Kena angkat kah?
from both of our marks.
Mati kah Skelar?
Yeah,
Mati
he's
kah?
got to be careful here, though. I saw
Woi,
Saksa rolling in.
masih di
Still
backup.
hungry for it, though. They should be able to
Lihat
protect
tadi
a
ambil
good
posisi
rotation
langsung
and
dekat
response from
si Skelar
RRQ.
tuh. Biar kalau ada yang
Right
deketin
now,
langsung
also,
dikasih
the
jadi
fact
kodok.
that I don't know if they still want to put the
Langsung
pressure
kena
here, but
skill
like
load.
you mentioned, Octa having those 2 kills early on will help him skill up pretty well. He does just have that magic penetration.
Awas kena angkat
for
kamu.
like
Oke,
currently,
skiller.
the arcane
Kamu
boost, but
no
he'll still be
purif.
working around building up. And it looks like Burmese Ghoul still wants to put the pressure here in the top
Untung
side.
di situ
Iraq
masih
gonna
ada
spot
Ira.
blink out. Trying to get a
Mau
little bit extra
di-planking
gold
tadi
here for
Skelar.
Stitch, but ultimately
Perasaan saya tuh udah
resulting in
jadi.
nothing for now.
Yeah, you see how Burmese schools also position
Di
themselves
bawah
here on the top
juga,
side, kind of
ya kalau
anticipating
Baywan
that
sih bakal gitu-gitu
RRQ
aja, nggak
Hoshi
akan ada yang mati.
might
Soalnya
actually
life
create
steal
some
Ruby
pressure here
tinggi.
up against Stitch. As long as he's fine, right? As long as he's able to get in his first 2 items, that should be good. Which
Dan
is
mereka
actually
adu
pretty
gebuk
much
aja
what
dari
the
tadi,
Burmese
nggak ada
schools
yang
has been doing so far
urus
here.
lane di
4
bawah tuh, lihat.
minutes in, they've been taking all of the turtles, and not to mention, like I want to point out that Saxa has been getting all of the kills too, which is really
Scalar
good for
kalah damage sih,
Baksha here
adu
in
gebuk.
the early
Di
game. And
plating
think about it,
dikit-dikit nih
it's not
tornya.
easy, right, to have this Baksha. You got the Nana, you got all of these frontliners, you got the taunt,
Bawa,
the
bawa,
Fred
bawa
Rin, so
kak,
it's not gonna be
kameramen,
easy to
bawa.
go up against them. But for Burmese schools, as long as they can keep this up against RRQ, have this
Wah, mau dimakan si Cloud di atas, tapi sudah ada Purip sih. Scalar tuh. Nice, iratnya yang dapat. Tapi Brusco ditukar kali ya, tukar Brusco kali. Oke, masih di backup. Delar buang flicker, nggak dapat. Oke, masih kuat sekali backupnya. Demi bunuh tank dia buang flicker. Ih, nggak mati dia. Wah, 1 hit. Nice banana. Nggak rugi buang flickernya kali ini. Dia dapat. Ah, mati juga nih. Mati juga. Nah, blinknya mati juga. Dapat 2, dapat turtle. Untung banget. Emang boleh seuntung ini. Emang boleh, guys.
Yeah, for the side of Burmese schools,
Oke, golnya langsung tipis.
Lihat
di geng kamu. Mati. Meskipun ada Purif, tapi damage tetap masuk. Itu Puriva ya guys ya. Dia tuh hanya hilangin efek sisi doang sama efek negatif. Kalau damage tetap masuk. Boom.
Okay, Nico not going to be able to connect on his
Mati
own.
kah?
Defended, but Brusco now taking the brunt of the damage. Still, will he be able to get away? He doesn't as Blink gets the
Blinknya
kill.
1 hit sama Nana
So
tuh.
still a lot of back and forth
Kena
here for
bumerangnya
both
nggak?
teams.
Nggak
Kim,
mati dia.
economically though, it's pretty much even.
Kayaknya
Given
si
all the
Okta nih
action
bakal
here, now it's
mulai
the 5-5 even across
diperhatiin
the
sih nanti
board.
di sini, dicariin.
Yeah, if they
Soalnya
call these kind
dari
of
tadi
deep
dia
roll, what you
rese
kinda
juga.
take a look at
Dia
is,
rese
do they
banget
have the
combo
map
sama
control?
Ruby sama
How's their gold laner doing?
Mino,
And so far for
Fredrin.
RRQ, this
Free
is
hit
what
banget
they
dia di
did
belakang.
in the last game, right?
Belum
Getting
pecah
in the
pasif
map
lagi tuh,
control
guys.
is so vital for them, even though they didn't really win those early game trades up against
Tower
Burmese
juga atas
schools.
bawah udah
They
gundul.
managed to be able to take in the space.
Wah,
And
kena
mind you,
angkat
this is the
banana.
flood you're talking
Mati
about.
dia.
Blink gonna try to go in for
Banana?
banana
Mati
here.
dia.
Oh,
Soalnya
he's
ada
actually okay. He
ada
is
Bruno.
not gonna be able to get
Damage
away.
Bruno sakit.
Great setup once again. Spatial migration into the Requiem. Able to get a kill now on the bottom
Kalau
side.
Bruno
They're
nggak
gonna
ikut
focus
nggak
here.
mati tadi tuh.
Putting the pressure still, like you were mentioning, you know, you have to look at who has this kind of advantage, right? And space-wise, yeah, it's RRQ. They've got 2 turrets. Burmese ghouls, though, they don't care right now.
Oke, turtle
They're gonna be
terakhir
making their
sebelum
way
berubah
to
jadi
this
lore.
next objective, the turtle. If they can secure this one, it'll help them just a little bit deal with this. But right now, look at this. RRQ doesn't want to go ahead and
Ambil
just give this
teratas.
away. They want to fight for it and get this positioning. Burmese ghouls get
Kalau
the first
bisa dapat 2
turret
tower sih.
of the game for themselves here on the top
Mungkin.
side with Delar doing the work.
Brunonya kayaknya dia mau ikut
Just
luar.
yet. They're gonna back off. Soxa going in with the rest of the team. Nico has the guy
Wah,
defended
ditarik.
himself.
Dimakanin
Goes in
Brusco-nya.
right for
Tarik,
Brusco.
dimakanin.
Brusco waiting for the team to come in. Delar goes in.
Dimakanin.
1-2 punch.
Damage-nya
gets the
cukup soalnya,
kill.
guys.
And Brusco out
Paku
of the
itu
picture
sakit
here.
loh.
Now down a member.
Dia burst juga
Burmese
itu.
ghouls for the taking for this turtle unless RQ Hoshi can do something.
Yeah, like what Delar did there too. Is actually
Ah,
going to recall
dia
back to
curi
the
ulti
base after
Ruby
taking in
lagi.
that turret and
Ultinya
joining
ada
in
mulu
the
ini,
side of
si
Burmese
Nico.
schools here. Kind of adds up to the burst damage that they have.
Blink juga
Not
masih ada
only do they
ulti
get
sih
it
dia.
in the form of like Blink here with the Guinevere, but with Delar actually joining in the fights, it's actually
Caranya
pretty
Purip
good here for
Skylar
Burmese schools. But
masih ada.
Delar also
Skylar.
understands that he kind of needs to take back the space that RRQ Hoshi has been taking, and so far
Pakui
he's doing it
kelihatan
in
bawah
this
sih.
push, pretty much
RRQ
what the
bakal
Burmese
ambil
schools has been
turtle.
doing even in the group stage.
Sudah skill
With
2
this
juga
last
sih
turtle,
Blink.
though.
Blink could be in trouble here. Skylar going in with Blazing Duet, gonna force him back. Irad able to get the turtle though off
Kan,
of
aku
it.
bilang.
So they're happy
Karena
with
Delarnya
Delar, able to
show
get
di
the
bawah
next
kan,
turret
jadi
down on the bottom
RRQ
side.
bakal ambil
So
turtle.
trade across map objectives
Biar
for
nggak
now.
rugi-rugi amat tukar
Was that
power
worth
sama
it? Is that
turtle.
the good call for Burmese ghouls here, Kim?
I think it's a point that Burmese schools kind of understands that
Kirat,
RRQ
awas.
Hoshi, yeah,
Bisa
okay,
di
they've been taking in,
sandwich tadi
they've
tuh.
been winning in all of these team fights so far. So Delar, I like what he's doing, and this was what he has been doing even in the group stage, right? Creating the space for Burmese schools, and you really need this, especially in the current meta that everybody really loves to go for team fights, and sometimes you don't even notice it. You don't really have that space in the map. It's gonna be harder to go for those team fights, especially like once these turrets are down, you kind of have to send someone back in. So it's gonna be like -1 when it comes to the team fight. So not only do you have to join in the team fights, you have to get the map control too here for the side of Burmese schools, which is what Delar has been doing so far here for the side of Burmese schools.
Yep, and with that, right, this
si Dolar ini dia bakal main split terus.
For Skylar here. Now once again in the mid lane, they want to go ahead and
lihat
duke it out.
Brusco ditumbuk Bruno sakit banget. Wah, masih selamat junglernya. Tapi mati sih Valentine. Dapat 2. Itu juga mati tuh. Dolar mau 1 versus 5 cuy. Dikejar kamu sama Banabot. Banabot udah ada Domi tuh. Mati sih dia, nggak bisa lari sama Banabot gitu. Nggak ada purit, nggak ada flicker dia. Selamat tadi sasanya guys tuh. Oh iya. Nggak kasih lihat tadi kah si Banabot tuh Ruby versus Paku itu tuh Bewan. Wah. Si Dolar. Aduh. Bisa sandwich kesian banget ya dari recalling. Bisa emot-emot lagi.
It seems like RRQ Hoshi is managing pretty well up against the Burmese schools here, but it's not that far of a gold lead. It's 1,000.
Mereka nggak bisa war guys.
Yeah, 1,000
Paku itonya nggak ada.
Here for the side of RRQ. If they manage to take
dikasih RRQ
lore-nya, at least a little bit more space for them to take in at least all of the second tier taps here for Burmese schools. Again, the space for their side, and not to mention, like if you look at Skylar's stats, 203 on this Claude, you saw in that last replay that he was already shredding apart all these tanky front lines that the Burmese schools
had. Iya si Dolar kesian banget tadi. Saya langsung ingat gusennya si Joe Emperor Jonathan Liandi gitu juga di bawah juga dimintain foto sama anak-anak Onik KG foto bang.
Some people might be like, oh Brusco, what are you doing? But a lot of the times he's actually able to be a nuisance so much on this Minotaur that he's able to get a lot of resources out. And
RRQ-nya tanknya kayak 2 cu, bisa Ruby inisiasi, bisa juga Mino. Baru mereka tuh ultinya nggak barengan. Kalau yang buka inisiasi Mino, Ruby-nya buat ulti backup kalau misalnya dibalikin, diangkat Buin gitu. Dia balikin tangkap damage dealer tim lawan juga. Lihat si Dolar kan dia main satu lane cu, dia udah sampai di atas mau di pojok tuh. Dia mau nge-sandwich. Si Dolar emang nih dia sandwich mulu cu. Awas kilur. Kena happy birthday nanti
like, this is the same case. Like this Paquito seems to be a staple choice here for the Burmese schools, not only for Dolar. There was also a time in the group stage that this was the thing that Nico has been doing. And taking a look at the items here so far, it is going to be, wow, Skylar at least leading in terms of a gold lead here right now. 9,700, nearing already 10,000. That is way far.
Mereka nggak berani defense.
1-2-0 on the Bruno. He's already gotten
ditempelin Brusco soalnya sih
just in case he gets picked off here or gets into like a head-to-head here with Dolar. Having that wind of nature is going to be crucial in the team fights.
It's going to be clutch, right? That's what that's going to be. And like I said, when Claude gets to this point, you have these 4 specific items locked in. It's really tough to deal with because you also got to catch him, right? The way that he's going to use that BMI to kind of get out of some of these situations.
Dapat 2. Sasanya dimakanin. Oke, Skylar kena angkat. Sasanya mati. Oke, junglernya mati. Dolarnya terkurung. Oke, masih bisa kabur. Aduh, rugi tadi. Oh, dia nggak bong flicker ke banana. Kira dia ulti flicker.
Yeah, the swing of the goal too from 30.
Dolarnya mau split lagi. Tapi di sandwich, mau di sandwich.
50.000 dari saya, pesan sama Nana kok takut.
Wah, ada donate ya tadi tuh. Sorry, kayaknya ketutup guys. Mana sih Sosial Basku? Oh iya, Sosial Basku paling bawah, pantas ketutup. Wah, sorry, udah di atas tuh. Jangan kan mereka, kamu aja sekarang juga ngeri kan ketemu Nana.
Burmese Ghouls, do they actually want to try to pull something off? Saksa could come down to it. Nico holding on to that Ruby ultimate once again. RQ knows what's up. Delar also positioning here. They're gonna have to go for it. Appraiser's Wrath gonna come down.
Oke.
Able to secure it though.
Irat dapat lore.
And now Sox left to his
Sasa juga
own.
mati.
Will fall into the river. Now Blink
Gacor.
gets I'm offended combination here. Flickers on out. Delar couldn't do anything but watch. And Sox is the one to fall. RQ ready to make the power play.
I like the attempt there of Soxa to try and steal in with the Lord. Roll in and click that Retribution. But I think Burmese Ghouls kind of was trying to go for maybe possibly a split push. Like if you look at that particular moment when Soxa was going to try to go in, like you see Delar and Stitch going to try to make a move on that mid lane, but it's a little bit too late now because Enhanced Lord for the side of RRQ, they can take all of the inhibitors here. They don't have a good amount of burst to take down the front line.
Yeah.
But here comes Irad.
Irad he's gonna get pulled. He has the immortality, but there's the minion for gonna be jumped in. Look at the damage coming out from Skylar. Able to get the kill.
Ini Delar cu, niat banget dia buang flicker buat bunuh Brusco. Nana kena angkat. Oke, ditarik sama Valentine. Valentine-nya harus mati tuh. Mati.
Nico has to run out of there,
buy
some time, some space, but he ultimately dies. And they hold on to a sliver of health on this turret for a little bit longer. Delar trying to keep the minion at bay. Banana jumps in, finds the connection. But look at the damage from Delar. The 1-2 punch isn't enough to get the kill though. And now RRQ looking to end the game.
Mereka RRQ mau paksain kah? Nggak bisa. Delar sakit ini kok.
It looks like
langsung mati kamu nanti.
Disciplined route here, Kim, and back off for now.
Yeah, if they overcommit there, they could have been punished there by Stitch, who also has almost all the items that a marksman needs right in the late game. And by this time, like 16 minutes in mid to late game, everybody has what they need to be able to go up against your opponents. But what RRQ Hoshi has here, as compared to Burmese Ghouls, is the burst damage. You've seen it in the Nana. That was like 2
tadi 250 ya. Thank you guys.
He also has the Athena shield there. So
sorry, saya nggak fokus game karena lihat yang donate tadi siapa 50.000 dari saya. Terima kasih saya.
That additional burn that you get when you pop in your skills from that emblem from Okta. So kind of really hard for
tadi
the
Sosiabasnya di bawah dia tertutup. Sorry. Udah di atas nih, udah munculin.
From what they had in game number 1. Great solid front line, but no one to kind of answer out to the back line here of RRQ Hoshi because Delar's busy pushing, right? Delar's busy pushing. There's no one
Delarnya
to
ngamuk
take
tapi
down
nggak
the
mati.
Nana, no one to
Iya.
take down Skylar, who is
Tapi
also
mati
very mobile
bunuh
aggressive.
Brusco aja. Dia memang incarnya
When
Brusco.
you're looking at RRQ Hoshi here, Skylar 3-0 and 7.
Soalnya waktu di Filipina dia jengkel sama Brusco.
Tough to deal with, like that kind of damage because it's
Ini,
very.
oh itu tadi lore kedua ya belum.
Like even
Lore
if you
kedua
try to
dapat
get them
semua
down, you
tower
have to
sih.
work through the passive. You have to work through a BMI and a wind of nature. Like there's so many things to fall through. Not to mention get through that front line, right? The front line. Not to mention the peels available with a Ruby or even a Fredrin, right? So this is going to be a Lord most likely going to the hands of RQ once again, unless Burmese Ghouls can do something about it. But even Sox are just trying to get some of this vision.
Aduh,
Blink waiting patiently
kok
as
aku
well.
ngeri-ngeri ya lihat.
Still
Takut
Lord less than half health
si
here. They
Iratnya
might try to make it a
diangkat
miracle
sama
play.
gue nih cu.
They can
Jadi
pull
kalah
off.
retri.
Stitch positioning here is going to be crucial as they
Oh,
approach this
Delardo.
Oh
right
gue
now. RQ
sekarang Delarnya
are
itu
taking a
di mid
ton
tadi
of
dia mau.
damage. He's kind of out of the picture.
Oke,
So now
dibalikin,
the numbers
dibalikin.
and the advantage for RQ, and
Oke.
that's the Lord going
Nice,
in their
kita dapat.
hands. There's nothing
Tunggu lore aja,
Burmese
tunggu lore
Ghouls
aja.
could do with that, considering the fact that Delar had to go back to heal up.
Yeah, the presence of mind too of like Okta and Skylar to think that they had their eyes on the Lord, and they were also keeping Delar in check, right? He was trying to go for the mid tower, and RQ Hoshi knows that. They have all the space that they get, so if they actually took Delar down there, that wouldn't have been a big thing. But for RQ Hoshi, right, they've gotten everything secured. They got all these beefy front line to kind of
Seingatku bisa di-refresh loh, dimunculin lagi yang tadi tuh.
You see how
Gimana ya?
Skylar was chunking it out real fast too. So at this point, everybody has everything that they got to the point that Irad's already chunking up. All of the damage gets tugged in though.
Wow. Irad already taking a ton of damage. Immortality going to be pop. Blink as well.
Dulu.
Still
War,
has his.
war.
Can they
NK,
pull it
NK.
off? Look at the damage. Delar
Pakunya
gonna be taken
mati,
out
3
really quickly.
mati.
Skylar on
Oke,
the
N.
backside, still going.
2-0
Lord's
saja
gonna be
bos.
up here. They want all the
Selamat
kills for the end of the
RRQ.
game. It's a
Kita
triple
masuk
for
semifinal.
Skylar, and they take the
Ini
series
RRQ
in a
antara
sweep,
ketemu AP
sending
Brand
Burmese Ghouls out of the
atau
tournament.
Homeboys. Kalau Onyx kemungkinan ketemu
The thing that we thought that
Fireflux
Burmese Ghouls
atau
going back to their identity, it did work out for them. Actually, it did.
Blacklist.
They took back the space early to mid game.
MVP
but
Nana.
unfortunately for the side of RRQ Hoshi.
Nana atau
Damage
Cloud nih
when it
guys yang
came to
MVP.
late game. two bursts coming out from the Molina blitz, and at the same time they had to deal with the blazing duet. And mind you, they haven't shut down Skylar or Octa that entire game, so that already
Si Octa nih
sends
mukanya
their goal
aku
lead
belum
all the
terlalu
way
ingat.
up. Without
Tadi
the
kelihatan
shutdown
tapi
goal,
sekarang saya
without
lupa
the
lagi.
items, it was really hard
Gimana
for
bentuk
the
mukanya?
side of Burmese Ghouls to bounce back.
I mean, even taking a look at the highlights here, like you said, Kim, there was some moments once again from Burmese Ghouls that looked pretty good, but
2-0 saja bos. Senggol dong. Oke gas, 2-0 torang gas.
Pointing out why Nana's so strong in this current meta. I mean, it was impossible for anybody to get to Octa.
Begitu kan, begitu lah.
That was the kind of thing that we were talking about. You know, Delar was really trying to put pressure around the map. Yeah, he was able to get some turrets and actually get some space to work with, but even with that case,
Oke,
like,
kita selesai
no
live
opportunity really for Burmese Ghouls
karena
to punish because
RRQ
the
sudah
lineup
menang.
they had to work against, you know?
Dan bye bye
Great
guys.
setups here.
Thank
A
you
lot of
yang
time.
sudah
Bruce
nonton dan
doing
yang
what
sudah
he has to
donate.
do on this Minotaur.
Jangan lupa di share ke teman-teman, keluarga, dan
I
di
mean, he was the
subscribe.
one that's soaking up all the damage.
See
I
you.
mean, he's